Hi there, it's Kaizen, the one with the weird keybinds, and today we'll go over some of the most impressive 6-man / emergency substitute runs and moments in Valorant's history so far. First, let's talk about Vision Strikers. This early Korean powerhouse did not drop a single game in all of Stage 3 and for qualifying for Masters Berlin. They also made having a rotating 6-man roster look like a good idea. This isn't just an impressive feat for Valorant, but in all of esports in general, where teams purposely filled more players in a match than the bare minimum needed to play a proper game. The core of this team was Buzz, their entry fragger, Mako, their controller, Stax playing the initiator role, and RB flexing between Raze and Sova a lot. Vision Strikers would rotate either King, their sentinel, or Lakia, their second initiator main. These two would swap based on the map that they were playing. As I mentioned earlier, this team would dominate the Korean circuit and had mixed results on the international stage. In Masters Berlin, we would see them beat the likes of both PaperX and Ascend, the same Ascend that would go on to win the first ever Champions tournament hosted by Riot Games. They were only stopped by the eventual tournament winners, Valorant Esports. Pretty impressive for their first international appearance in my opinion. Champions 2021 was a lot worse since they got grouped. Both Cloud9 and Fnatic would move on, but failed to reach the top 4, making their results look even bleaker. They wouldn't be able to redeem themselves after partnerships became a thing. DRX would pick up the core while leaving King and Lakia. Despite the somber ending of Vision Strikers, their overall 6-man roster run in my opinion was quite impressive. I'll put them in 4th because their record together during the Korean circuit was just insane and helped shape utility usage and coordination in early Valorant. On the other hand, the infamous MIBR vs 100 Thieves game was one filled with immense action and surprises. On one hand, you had 100 Thieves whose season was still on the line and had better talent from top to bottom, while on the other side you had MIBR, aka Made in Brazil, a team whose season was already over. They had nothing to play for. Win or lose, they will be vacationing in Cancun before LCQ started in July. Plus, it would be their assistant coach subbing in for Heat. This team had a lot of internal conflicts too, which was to be expected. Winning cures all, and MIBR barely did any of that. But as we know now, this match gave birth to one of the most legendary plays in Valorant.
You gotta stick it, Chosen spraying tonight, no way! Off of it all, he's the hero in this scenario, and 100 Thieves have been denied! This game has had it all!
A stabbing that ended 100 Thieves' regular season and gave birth to EG's playoff spot, where they will go on to finish 3rd in the Americas, which gave them the spark to finish in 2nd place of Masters Tokyo, and finally lifting the Champs 2023 trophy. All these things were not expected to happen, especially from the EG players themselves.
Can you tell me why on earth you've done this?
Because MIBR should not have won that match, I'm gonna be honest, bro.
Okay. I think that's a good shave.
This game gave us so much and then some. Evil Genius's 2023 run will forever be tied to this knife stab that would even impress those living in London. I'm putting them here just because of how memorable it was. This might be the most impressive coach substitute game in Valorant's history. It's also funny to think that it's kinda common to see coaches sub in for official tier 1 matches too. I know Karmin Corp had one last year, and I think there was another one in a Masters or Champions event as well. But this knife kill tops any of those so far. But for now, let's travel back to the APAC region with Ilya, aka Something, who joined PaperX's team in early 2023. This was a time where PaperX were looking quite shaky, so much so that they may have not even qualified for APAC's playoffs. His addition was also quite bizarre, since this Singaporean team was all but letting Benkai go, meaning that they would not have an IGL anymore. Yes, the likes of Forsaken and Divine would go on to do a bit of play calling here and there, but overall it was seen as IGL by committee. And guess what? It worked. They went from almost missing the playoffs for APAC to being crowned kings of this region, defeating DRX in an exciting grand finals match too. I think placing them here would be quite fair. I do want to give some honorable mentions to this year's Crew and DRX, where both teams had emergency roster changes. Crew because MTA injured his hands, which sucked, since he was one of their better players stats wise. This made the way for Heat to join and help Crew go on a 5-game win streak while taking down 100 Thieves in the process too. There were many times where Heat was looking like Crew's best player, and that's saying a lot when you have a player like Kesnet on the team. DRX on the other hand saw Flashback take a back seat since he had personal matters to take care of. This opened the door for BN to join and be that glue/vibe merchant for the team. During this time, they went on a 5-0 run, beating the likes of Genji in the process as well. I didn't include them on the tier list because both would lose in the playoffs. Crew just couldn't get past G2 and Leviathan, and DRX kinda got unlucky by playing both Genji and PaperX, despite being better than T1 in my opinion. And this sucks because we'll never know which team was better. since Stax was let go afterwards and is now on T1 for his revenge arc. If any of these two teams made it to the top 3 and qualify for Masters Shanghai, then I would have included them, but there's just other players and teams that just had more initial success, which made their emergency stand-in / 6-man plan more memorable in my opinion. But speaking of initial success, let's talk about Demon 1's event debut. I'm only going to be focusing on the Americas regular and playoff season, since that was when Evil Geniuses were experimenting with him. Mainly because in Masters Tokyo and Champs he was the de facto starter. I will be doing the same with the others in the category. The only reason why I included Vision Strikers' whole run was because they were doing the 6-man rotations throughout their time. And just like them, there were games where Evil Geniuses did a rotating 6-man roster, with poor results. However, Demon 1 would eventually replace BCJ, which was a controversial decision to make, since BCJ was one of their better players and was not seen as the reason why EG were losing games. However, it turns out this gamble paid off, since they started to look red hot during this time and even beat NRG in the playoffs once. Again, I'm just focusing on the Americas time, which is why I'm putting this 6/substitute run here for Evil Geniuses. If it was for the whole year, then you probably would place it higher, but nonetheless, a 3rd place finish for this team's rosters change during their debut event is nothing to ignore. Next, we have CGRS. Now personally, I would put this as the number 1 spot because Paper X is such a fun team to watch, and Masters Tokyo is my favorite event of 2023, and in my top 3 all-time VCT tournaments. I kinda explained why in this video. Regardless, CGRS replaced Ilya, aka something due to visa issues. He was originally placed on this team as a 6-man instead of a content creator, which would have made more sense in my opinion. He was a big Thailand content creator, and I mean really big. Basically, him at Masters Tokyo was the equivalent of Shroud playing Sentinels during LCQ. Even CGRS doesn't know why they chose him to be a 6-man.
จริงๆแล้วผมเองก็ไม่แน่ใจนะว่าทำไมเฟเวอร์เล็กถึงชวนผมเข้าทีมนะผมก็แค่สตรีมเมอร์คนหนึ่ง
Maybe Paper X did this to save money, killing 2 birds with 1 stone by having a content creator and the 6-man spot filled at the same time. Who knows? Regardless, coming into this event, everyone was selling their Paper X stocks, and rightly so. Like I mentioned previously, before Ilya came on this team, they were mid and struggling in the APAC region. It was so bad that they almost lost a map to a winless DFM team. However, we have to remember the power of friendship meme originated in Japan itself. These group of individuals were on fire. They took down DRX, Korea's best team, EDG, a team that were knocking off Titans themselves, and even NRG, America's 2nd best team at the time, and had 4 past trophy lifters themselves. Paper X was a team seen as one of the worst to being the ones who claim a 3rd place finish, going above and beyond everyone's expectations. And best believe I have to show this clip whenever I'm talking about Masters Tokyo.
Good util. He's clearing them out, near-sighted. Really needs to get a kill here. Maybe more! Why not? Absolutely fluid with it! He's on for the ace, and he's only gone and done it! A Bristol round win, all off the back of this guy, a plucky upstart, a content creator.
And I guess even Alex himself was kinda surprised to see CGRS have that dog in him. This run truly proves that Valorant is a team-based game, and you can't blame one person's for a team's shortcomings. Especially once you realize that CGRS had the 5th lowest VLR rating in this event, 3rd lowest ACS, and ADR2. This just speaks volume about how amazing this feat truly was. Now for the last 2 spots, you can make an argument for either or. But for now, I'ma just go with Petty Tech's sub run during Masters Shanghai. He was never supposed to be a part of this team in the long run. He was always seen as a temporary placeholder till Root could play. However, visa issues came out of nowhere to extend his stay on the team till they lost to BBL in an 0-2 fashion. He would then spend the next month and some change watching Team Heretics go on a 5-game win streak and claim the 2nd place spot for EMEA's Split 1 playoffs. However, once again, Heretics found themselves in a predicament. Miniboo had exams to do during this time, and the organization chose to sit him, so they wouldn't be putting too much pressure on his mental health. This opened the door for Patty Tech to reclaim his sub/stand-in role, and he ran with it. People need to remember, it was over a month of him being away from Tier 1 play, but that didn't stop him from delivering clutches and aces to boot. If you want recency bias to take over and put him at number 1, that's fine. However, number 1 for me is TenZ. It just has to be. People forget how quickly Sentinels needed to bring him onto the team. He was truly an emergency loan turned permanent player. The last time Sentinels played with Sinatra was February the 23rd, 2021. Sentinels played with TenZ against Luminosity on March 12th, 2021. That's only 2 weeks and 3 days apart. Not a lot of time at all. Oh yeah, this was for the Champions North American Stage 1 Masters, an event that could drastically help the winner earn a spot for Masters Reykjavik. No pressure. Oh yeah, at this point, Tens was committed to being a content creator / streamer since C9 failed to perform well in events. If things didn't go well, we could be living in a world where not only does Sentinels fail to make it to Masters Reykjavik, but Tens doesn't compete in Valorant's pro play. He could have been the Tarek of Valorant instead, raking in that watch party money since he was still very popular among people after his C9 run. But that all changed with their first event together, where not a lot of time was spent among these guys compared to the other teams they were going against. But they were still able to claim a first place spot and make history in the process. This team would go on to dominate early Valorant and make history as well as records that may never be broken. Let me know down below if you agree or disagree with anything here, or I forgot to add any other stand-in / 6-man moments deserving to be mentioned down below.